Welcome, everybody, to a vaguely familiar podcast. This is a podcast by myself, Nazar Sayed, and my brother in crime.
Bashaar.
Yes, and brother in crime, partner in crime, whatever. And today we're doing a sort of a year wrap up podcast where we just sort of put a bow on everything that we did this year. And wait, you like that?
That's good. I like that.
Like that? I learned it from Doctor Strange.
Oh,
The
okay.
whole finger or the Indian dance thing, whatever you want to call it. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you will get a laugh out of that. If not, then you're missing out. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick, well, not a quick, however long, however quick these things turn out to be, but sort of a wrap of the year, because it's been an exciting, eventful, insightful, sad at times, eventful year. And a lot of things happened for us personally. A lot of things happened for our podcast. The fact that we're doing this is a huge thing, because 2 years ago we wouldn't have, because the podcast didn't exist. And I just wanted to go through that. You had some things you wanted to talk about, the artists that we discovered this year, books that we read, things that we learned, life lessons, and all that. And I'm all for it, man.
It sounds very deep when you say life lessons.
Yeah. Well, hey, we learned some. I don't know about you, but I did. You know. I have a question. It's kind of off the script per se, but how many people in your life currently do you still have that you didn't when? Sorry, yeah, that you don't have. Sorry, let me rephrase this. How many people in your life that you don't have in your life right now that you did in the start of the year? Because my number is drastic.
Really,
Yeah.
I think for you, because you discovered Clubhouse, you got basically exposed to a whole different universe. I want to say,
man, Clubhouse happened this year.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it happened this year. I want to say I'm pretty close with at least 95% of the same people,
Same people.
the same crowd. I've made a deeper connection with those same people.
Okay,
what I
that's
wanna
good. I think with me, I don't know, man. I think it's a part of growing up where all my friends have their own lives now. They have their own things to do. People are kind of at the point where they're like, okay, time to get serious. It was fun the last 10 years, but now we got to get that job. We got to get that dough. We got to get that girl. We got to get that guy, get married. Like, I'm at a point in my life where all my friends are either getting married or getting jobs or getting kids or getting broken up.
Yeah,
It's either or. Those are the four brackets that my friends are in and that I'm also kind of in. So it's kind of weird.
but
I don't
isn't that life though? Like when you're in high school, you think your high school friends are going to be your be all end all friends
Yeah.
till you die, and then when you go to university or college, you drift apart with them, and then you make university college friends, and you think those will be your friends for life.
Yeah.
To some extent they are, but once you graduate from university college, you start working. Everybody has their own separate lives. And then when you start working, you think your work friends are going to stay with you forever. So I think it's just a part of growing up and growth in general. Like, nothing is constant in life. The only thing constant in life is change. And
Maybe if I did
we
a
need to be
podcast with
adaptable.
them, I'd still be in touch.
Yeah.
Because because I want to talk about this. Like, let's say it's an interesting position to be in, because let's say 4 years, 5 years from now, like I have my own place, you have your own place. I'm living in Edinburgh, UK. You're living in Toronto in a 2-bedroom penthouse, right? Like, we're just being extravagant.
Yeah,
right
okay,
now,
sure.
right? I think the one thing that'll still connect us is, we got to do a weekly podcast, man. And hopefully by that time, the podcast is big enough that it means something, that we would want to keep doing it. Like right now, we're at a place where the podcast isn't really giving anything back except for the fact that you and I get to talk and discuss things that we really want to discuss, like Spider-Man and the John Mayer album and Coldplay and movies and songs and books and all that. And so right now it's purely, it's not financial at all.
Right.
Right? Some would say to our detriment, but some would also say this is the time where you build up, you build your brand, you build your personalities online. So it's okay. In a few years, I think that even if we were doing vastly different things, may it be on the internet, may it be in real life, I think that the podcast will still connect us. And I think that's an advantage that we have, man. I don't think we know that right now, but I was literally we're not really preparing for this podcast, but I was looking back and dude, we shot like 25 episodes this year.
We did. And
That's huge.
another aspect of what you were saying is, in a way, this is us documenting our lives
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
So even when I do look back at older episodes, I think of where I was in my life at that time. I think of how I put together the courage to come on and speak on the mic, on
100%.
camera. So it's really great to look back and see. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a parable, like a comparison, but if you look at Harry Potter movies for the course of the how many years that they've shot,
They shot about 10 years. Yeah.
you can see growth. You can see these people grow up. You can see their lives change. And it's the same thing with the Before trilogy. But I mean, we're not like that. But what I'm trying to say is that if you look back, you can see growth. You can see progress in how we talk and how the podcast has evolved. And even just the last year, looking back at the podcast, we did so many more episodes than we did the previous year.
True.
We got so many phenomenal guests. We got to speak to these people because of this podcast.
Man,
and I'm going to be grateful for that forever.
bro, honestly, like some of the people that you touched upon, we got Ali Abdal on the podcast.
We look up to Ali Abdal.
Like Ali Abdal is one of our heroes on the internet sphere, right? We had Dime on the podcast, right? He's one of the people, aesthetically, one of the finest filmmakers that I've seen in a long time. Then we got his younger brother Osama on the podcast.
Yeah.
Then we got singers.
We spoke to Usman Samyuddin. I've been reading his work.
ESPN Cricket Info's greatest Pakistani journalist of the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Usman Samyuddin was on the pod. We talked, like, because of that, we got to interview so many different people, so many cool people, got to learn about so many different things. And I don't think we would have ever had that personal growth had we not embarked on this journey a couple of years ago.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, maybe the podcast is not giving back to us from a financial point of view.
And it doesn't have to right now.
But these experiences, they're priceless in themselves.
Yeah, man. I totally agree with that. Because I was just for fun, and please don't go back and check this podcast out, guys. But the Irfan Tunisia podcast that we did,
Yeah.
it's hard to listen to now.
It's so cringe. Like,
and the thing is, yesterday night, there was a point where I was like, I want to take this off. But I didn't. I was like, there will come a time, let's say a year, 2 years from now, where we will look back and people will want to see like, hey, like sometimes I go back and listen to like Joe Rogan episodes when he was like in his first 100 and 150 episodes. And it's like, whoa, this is not the podcast that has become. Oops, sorry.
I do that with Shawn Mendes covers.
Look at that.
I look back at his channel and I think, man, this guy started off from his bedroom in
Yeah.
Pickering.
Yeah.
And look where he is now.
I do that too. And the great thing about that is that he hasn't taken them off.
No.
Like his Counting Stars covers, his A-Team covers, when he had braces on his teeth, they're still up there.
Yeah.
And there's something to say about that when you can look back fondly and where you came to now, where he's selling like multi-million albums and he's like
Doing stadium tours.
one of the biggest artists in the world. Yeah, and it's funny because I'm going to Karachi. By the time this comes out, I'll already be in Karachi, guys. So if you guys want to hit me up. But I'm going to go to Karachi this time. I'm going to be hanging out with people that I look up to. That's also one thing that I wanted to talk about. So when we got Irfan Juneja on the podcast, when we got Qazi on the podcast, when we got TP on the podcast, these were people we were fans of. And through some weird cosmic coincidence, through Clubhouse, through the internet, through whatever, WhatsApp, I have a relationship with these people now. I'm friends. I can call up Irfan and
They
be like,
know your names. They know you exist.
not even that, like to the point where like there have come moments in my life where I was like, I'm a bit confused. I don't know how to deal with this or that. And I was able to call up Irfan, or I was able to call up Ali Bhai, or I was able to call Ghazi Bhai and be like, yo, I don't know how to navigate this surface. Help me. And they did. Even if it was just podcast stuff. Like Ali Bhai gives so much unsolicited advice. But the thing is, his advice isn't like one of those uncles' advice. It's good advice.
It's coming from a good place.
It's coming from a good place. It's
with experience.
It's constructive. It's not like, yo, your podcast is shit. You should stop and delete everything. It's like, no. He was the person that told us that we should have a multicam setup. That a static cam is boring. And
he told us to have an overlay for the Zoom interviews that we have.
yeah, he said, have uniformity, have this. And the thing is, because he said that, and because we respect his opinion, this is a 3-camera setup right now, man.
Right.
And it's because of him that we upped our game. And it's great to have people like that in your life, and people that we used to look up to. Now, when I go to Karachi, I will hopefully be interviewing them and chilling with them and learning from them in person. And that's one thing that when I was watching Juneja videos in 2018 during Ramadan, I never thought that I'd actually be able to shadow him. It's because of the pod, man. It's because of the pod. It's because of the pod that Ali Abdal and I exchange yearly texts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Happy New Year, Ali. Happy New Year, Nazar. Like, that's one of those things that would not have appeared without the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful, man.
I agree. I am as well. It's been a crazy year, and I just want to make the pod better the coming year, and we'll talk about what we're looking forward to in the next year.
Yeah, and how that looks like as well.
Yeah.
So you wanted to go through some artists, some books, some music that you discovered, and I'm all game. What do you have?
Yeah, I wanted to do like a separate podcast of what did you read this year, but I think we can encompass that in this podcast.
Sure, yeah.
So what did you read this year, and what would be like your top 5 books that you would recommend to people?
Firstly, it's so flattering that you think I read 5 books.
Oh, really?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
My Goodreads is abysmal, man. Like I have not been good with catching up with that stuff, but some of the books that I read this year, well, I read a lot of, I don't want to use the term self-help because I feel like that has a different connotation, but just books that sort of better me, that make me a better person. I think that's a better way to say it. It's long-winded, but whatever. So I read a lot of Stephen Pressfield.
Love that guy.
Right?
I love that guy.
I read the book that definitely changed my life was Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Yeah.
Can I recommend it more for productivity, for just sort of finding balance in your life?
For that's actually my number 1 recommended book of this year.
Yeah.
Read that book to understand the science or the mechanics behind developing good habits and also breaking bad ones.
Totally.
I have to single-handedly give credit to that book for fixing my closet. If you go to my closet, you'll see everything is in place. And it's only because that book has taught me how to create systems that work.
Yeah, totally. I haven't lost my wallet in about 3 years. And I didn't know that I was subconsciously just basically putting in systems in my life that would not let me. And yeah, so James Clear's Atomic Habits really, really helped. During the fiction, I read a lot of classics. I was going back because I was writing a book this year. If you don't know, I wrote a poetry collection, so I read a lot of poetry as well. A lot of Robert Frost, a lot of Dylan Thomas. Don't say Rupi Kaur's name right now. Not even 1 second will I tolerate that, because I know that's what you're gonna drop. I read a lot of that kind of stuff, and then for fiction, I read Frederick Bachman. Man Called Ove was a great book. The book of the year for me was Anxious People. It was recommended to me by a friend. I had it in my possession for a while, but when I read it, man, that's one of those books that makes you feel good in the inside. Like, you know, when people come up to you, they're like, I want to get back into reading, but I don't want to read a sad book, and I don't want to read fantasy, and I don't want to read. Okay, shut up. Go buy Anxious People, read it, and tell me if you are back into reading or not. Because that's one of those books that like literally take you from a place where you think that reading is not for me anymore and put you back on the saddle. It's so good, man. Frederick Bachman is one of the best writers of the past 10 years, and he does not miss.
I want to give credit to the pod for bringing me back into the reading thing, because it was the Carrie Anthony podcast that really gave me a reality check on how many books that I'm not reading, what I'm missing out on.
Yeah.
And if Carrie is listening, thank you so much, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie. Totally.
So yeah, so I went from reading like no books for the past few years to reading at least 15 books this year.
Bro, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I know and it could be in the form of like reading them on my Kindle or hearing them on audiobooks.
How important was the Kindle in your development of reading?
It was good, and it was also, again, that compiled with developing systems, I had to really block out at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes at the end of my day, putting my phone away at the other side of the room.
Yeah, that really helps.
And focusing on reading it. And I'm not a fast reader because I like to absorb what I'm reading.
Yeah.
So I think...
And I told you this too, like there was a chunk of the period of this year when you were reading a lot, and that really reflected on how amazing of a podcaster you became. Just because it was just easier to talk to you, the words that you were pulling out of your head were just coming a lot easier to you, and you probably felt it too, where it was more easily your conversations were more easily accessible. And then there came a drought when it happens with everyone, whoever reads a lot and then reads not a lot for a bit, and then you could see that on the podcast reflected as well. So, like I said, the podcast has forced us to sit down with the book at least 30 minutes a day, and it's for the better, man.
Yeah, and to anyone who was struggling, like I was struggling to pick up a book, and really figure out what they wanted to read or what not to read, start off with reading what you're interested in.
Yeah.
For me to get back into the books, I went back and read the Shoaib Akhtar autobiography. That has such a close place in my heart because I bought that book with my 2010 or 2011 ED money.
Yeah.
It still has a
Which
price
is like
tag.
Christmas money for people
Yeah,
who don't
it still
know
has
read.
the price tag at the back of it. It was like 1,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And a crazy turn of events. I bought that book. I was a huge fan, and in 2018, I got to meet him, and he signed that book.
Yeah, I have a picture of you if you.
We have a
getting
picture of
signed.
it. So I started off with reading that book, and then I just transitioned into the books that I really wanted to read. So the books that I would recommend would be, again, Atomic Habits.
Totally.
I read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, who is an
Life-changing
amazing
book.
human being.
Life-changing book. If you're a creative and you have a creative block, read that book. It's an audiobook on YouTube. Listen to it.
If you
It's 3
struggle
hours.
with procrastination, which everyone does,
Yes.
that book is what you need to read.
Yeah.
And Stephen Pressfield, as a human being, is such an inspiration. He wrote his first book at the age of 52.
Yep.
At the age of 52, he wrote his first book, and then he never looked back.
Yeah.
The thing with procrastination is that you need to identify what you're fighting with.
Yeah.
And that Stephen Pressfield has identified as resistance.
Yeah. He's put a name to the thing that you feel like, I don't feel like working today. And you keep chalking it up to procrastination, but there's a name for it. It's called the resistance. And it's very Star Warsy and very Star Trekky, but it's true. The thing that you feel, the dread that you feel before starting something, that's it. There's a saying in the writer's world where starting is half the novel written, right? When you sit down and you start a novel, half of it is done. Half of the work is done.
Yeah.
And the next is just putting it on paper. So, yeah, I learned a lot from Stephen Pressfield's book as well. 100%. Highly recommended.
Yeah. And again, on that same note, I read Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, because I was trying to like start a few different things this year, and a lot of resistance was holding me back.
Sure.
So The War of Art helped me so much. And then The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, it told me that there's so much opportunity that comes with failure. And that getting started is such an important thing. Like you
Totally,
said,
man.
it's half the job done.
It's half the job done. Totally. Did you read a lot of fiction this year?
No.
You read 3 Harry Potter books.
Yes, I did. I was gonna say I read the 3 Harry Potter books. Great books. I was like engulfed into the universe of
The mythos
Harry Potter
and everything. You know, it's really good, man.
I did, and I question sometimes. I haven't read Game of Thrones, but like, what is the more imaginatively, like the bigger world? Like, what is more difficult to create, the Harry Potter world, or was it the Game of Thrones world? You've read both. Can you answer that?
I haven't read Game of Thrones.
Okay.
So I have owned them, but I haven't read them. I reread Harry Potter last year as well in 2020. So I can say that at least let's compare it with like the movies and the TV show. But again, it's hard to do because the Game of Thrones is a TV show.
What about, okay, let's say
It has
Harry
10
Potter.
episodes a season.
Let's say Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Harry Potter for me. And that's not because Lord of the Rings sucks or anything. It's just that Harry Potter came into my life at a more formative time.
Okay, but I'm asking you in terms of building that imaginative universe. What do you think is more difficult to have done?
Harry Potter had more time. It had 8 movies versus 3. A lot of the Lord of the Rings movie, a lot of the book wasn't even translated onto the screen. So I don't know, man. It's tough to say. I think I'd lean over towards Harry Potter just because of the place it has in my heart. But Lord of the Rings is up there. It's pretty good. I read Lord of the Rings at the start of the pandemic, and it was amazing. Hands down amazing. A bit long-winded because he loves describing things. So there's like pages on pages of him just describing how the wind hit Gandalf's beard or whatever, right? But it's world building, and it helps. So it's good.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Another book that I read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Dude.
Ghazi Akbar also recommends that book.
Shout out Ghazi Akbar.
Shout out Ghazi by Kya Kage Ghazi podcast. read that book. It was good. I heard it. It was an audiobook. And for a brief period of time during the year, I replaced listening to music with listening to audiobooks on my drives. And I think I breezed through at least 2 or 3 audiobooks just because of that.
Yeah.
Like I heard The Alchemist. I
Mm.
heard The Alchemist on my drive to my doctor's, and on the way back, it was like a quick 2.5 hour.
Yeah, it's a short book.
Yeah. Which is also a very good. And I realized where in Om Shanti Om,
Yes.
he gets the dialogue of, when you want something so bad, the whole universe conspires against
conspires for you
to get it.
whatever that is, the fate.
The fate.
Yeah, Om Shanti Om stole a lot of things. The Alchemist is one of them. So good on Om Shanti Om for that. But yeah, The Alchemist is a good one. It was just a good year for reading, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like next year is going to be even more so. Just because once you start, this year you sort of develop the habit of reading 30 minutes, 45 minutes a night. Next year, you're going to sort of implement it more, and you'll see that that number from 15 will climb up to 20, 25, 30. It's going to be great, man.
Yeah, I agree. Did you discover any new artists this year that you would recommend to?
Music-wise, I did. Gregory Allen. Wait, I want to get this right. So let me just Google it. He's a folk artist. He's like, if you like music,
like Passenger?
like Passenger, yeah. So he basically opened up for Gregory Allen. He's a Russian artist. Well, he has a Russian name, but I think he's British. Where's he from? He's from South Africa. Born in South Africa, currently based in Boulder, Colorado. His music is very Passenger based. He recently opened up for Lumineers in a few shows as well when the pandemic started during February, March of 2020 in South America. Gregory Allen Isakov, and he went viral on TikTok as well. And that's not how I discovered him. But he's just, if you love good folk music, acoustic-y, ballady, storytelling, then you're going to love Gregory Allen Isakov. He's great. And shout out to Osama Khalid. That's how I got introduced to him. He put one of his songs as his stories. And his stories are very aesthetic anyways. But they fit so well that I had to go and like Spotify this dude and just fell in love with him immediately. So he's one of the artists that I discovered this year. I think Phineas was also in the artist that
Phineas,
we
yeah.
totally discovered this year.
Same.
Phoebe Bridgers, great artist. I discovered her when I heard that she was going to be on the new Taylor Swift, the reworked Taylor Swift album, Taylor's version album of Red. She's amazing, man. She's amazing. Like she, again, folksy, acousticy, ballady, depressing, emo, all of those things, and I love it. I love her. She's amazing. Those were the few that stood out for me.
What about that band, Inhaler?
Oh shit, yeah, Inhaler. Oh, I totally forgot about Inhaler. Inhaler was
Sound
amazing.
Fender?
Fender I didn't discover this year.
Okay.
Fender was Hypersonic Missiles 2019, my boy. I listened to a lot of Fender when I was in the UK when we were there for a few days, for a few weeks. So Fender is an old cat, but Fender is great. He had an album come out this year, which was amazing, and he had his moment on TikTok as well. You know that the 17 Going Under song where he says, "I was far too scared to hit him, but I'm hit him in a heartbeat now." That went viral on TikTok. I didn't even know people were making videos about that.
Okay. I'm not in the TikTok world, so
okay.
I wouldn't know.
Okay, so yeah, so that was big on TikTok. Fender was great. Inhaler, man, that's a band that I've been rooting for a while. And
Up and coming?
Yeah, up and coming. They haven't really broken into the US yet, but in the UK they had a #1 album. It's great. They're great. Bono's kid is in that band, and
Yeah.
of course,
I was gonna say I heard a lot of Leon Bridges.
Oh yeah, Leon
he was
Bridges.
good.
Inside friend.
Alec Benjamin. You introduced me
true.
to Alec Benjamin. JP Sachs was another artist that I heard a lot this year. And then Phineas was good. On the Pakistani indie scene, you recommended me one song from a guy named Abdul Hanan.
Shout out.
Abdul Hanan and Saad Qureshi. These two guys had some really great singles.
Up and comers, you heard it first on the pod, man.
Absolutely.
They're gonna be great.
And then also lastly, I wanted to say, well, no, not lastly, but Bon Iver. I got into the album for Emma forever ago.
Oh, love it.
Great album. Fantastic. And then
Hands
the whole
down-
story behind it as well.
Hands down, like one of the best breakup albums, if not the best, because again, like you said, the story behind it is so painful, man.
Yeah.
Guy was sick. He was lodged up in Wisconsin, was it?
Yeah.
And he had a wooden cabin in the middle of nowhere, and he wrote this album, and you can feel it. You can hear
feel
it, man. That's such a good album. Such a
Yeah.
good pick.
And then lastly, I'm still discovering a lot of John Mayer music. So
Really, what song did you discover
I
this year?
still go deep dive and I listen to more songs. So this year, I think one of the songs that I heard was Tracing. Unreleased song. It was from the Heavier Things album. Never got released, but I heard it and I thought it was a good song.
Man, you could have put Tracing in that album instead of like Only Heart or something, or Home Life, and I would have loved it.
Yeah, something's missing.
Yeah, like when you fall in love with an artist like Mayer or Coldplay, and you go back and start finding their unreleased stuff, that's
Like,
when you know.
Have you heard Gravity by Coldplay?
Yeah,
It's such a good song. Even Proof by Coldplay. It's such a good song, but
nobody talks about it.
it's never been
So
released.
I feel like again, like it's like when you're an Oasis fan and then you hear like the big hits, but then you go and hear like Half the World Away or Talk Tonight,
oh yeah.
and you're like, whoa, why isn't this big? This is like so much better than what they actually have out there. But that's the pleasure of being a diehard, man, that you get to witness and have those experiences.
Yeah. What is 2022 looking for you?
Big changes.
Big changes.
Big changes personally, writing wise. I'm going to Karachi in a few days. Actually, tomorrow I'm leaving for Karachi. So the idea is that I have put a pause on my novel, and because I'm so just disconnected with my home country, and I really hope that when I go back to Karachi, I will reconnect and be able to write the novel that's been haunting me, basically. So next year is big for that.
I want to do a pod when you're back from Karachi about Karachi.
Yeah, 100%. We're down for
About
that.
what it's like to, you know what's so sad? Anytime that we ever go back to Pakistan, it's always like you're visiting. We can only visit anymore.
Yeah. I don't think we can live there anymore.
That's a huge change that happened. You know, you go from living and calling this place
Home.
I still call it my home, but
100%.
I'm always going to be visiting.
But this year also marked the first time we've lived somewhere longer than we had in Karachi. Like we lived in Karachi for 8 years, and we've now officially lived in Canada for 9.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like if we were to make a pie chart of the places that we've lived in our life, Canada would now have the biggest portion of
The
that.
biggest chunk, yeah. Yeah. So 2022 represents a lot of that. I hope the whole point of me writing A Dream Is All I Need to Get By is to remind myself that you can't let the dream get away. So lots of chasing dreams, lots of improving the pod, lots of work on the YouTube stuff, lots of work on the personal life, lots of work, practical life. A lot of that, just navigating that is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, likewise. I think last year I graduated, I started working, and so I'm still getting used to that work life, and then not letting my work life dictate my personal life.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Right? Like trying to balance and still have, again, like we were talking about last podcast, having a 5 to 9 that keeps you going.
Yeah.
And just I think getting more physically fit so I can start playing cricket again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, me too, man. I want to start playing cricket again too.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is gonna be just a riff. I'm glad that we sort of caught up with the pod. If you guys liked it, if you guys have spent all this time with us this year, thank you very much. We truly appreciate it. Tell us how your year is gonna end, what resolutions you have to maintain in 2022, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys soon.
We'll see you next year.
We'll see you next year. Take care of you guys.
Cheers.